So, Thanksgiving is Thursday, so I thought I would do a different type of video and recommend you some of my favorite books about food. Bear with me here. It's a different video. You're like, books about food, what the heck does that mean? What I mean is that there are certain, fiction books, whether they be YA or contemporary, that have a really strong emphasis of food in them, whether they be about a chef or a character really loves cooking or talks about cooking or has recipes in it. That is what I mean. These are some of my favorite books to read. Whether it's a book that's about a bakery or in a coffee shop or things like that, I am immediately drawn to those books. And there has been a lot that I've read that I don't really love, but there's been some I've read that I genuinely enjoy. So those are the ones I'm going to recommend to you today. In case you're looking for a book about food, these might be the books for you. I know this is like going to be the most weirdest recommended reads ever, but hopefully, it's Thanksgiving soon, so I figured it ties well together, right? I hope this is good. You'll have to let me know. The first book I want to talk about is Hungry Hearts. This is a YA anthology. It has 13 tales of love and food. I read this a couple months ago and fell in love with it, which surprises me because I'm not the biggest fan of anthologies. There's a few I like, but sometimes they're just in the middle of the road for me. This one I loved. So this is Hungry Hearts. So basically, at the very beginning of this book, we have this map, and it's called Hungry Hearts Row, and there's a whole bunch of restaurants, food carts, stores, things like that, and basically every one of these stories interconnects with something in Hungry Hearts Row, whether it be in Zia Sophia, like this Italian restaurant, or Pop's Deli. All these stories interconnect in a way. Some of them have magic in them, some of them are about like superheroes. It's just a fun series, and it's gonna make you hungry. I should probably mention that. All these books will probably make you want to eat, so whether that'd be a good thing or not, you'll let me know. But I loved Hungry Hearts. The majority of the stories I really, really enjoyed. I talk about it in a review. I'll link it down below, and I talk about every story and which one I really enjoyed. But overall, I would highly recommend this. If you just love reading about food and how it really, connects to characters, because some characters really, if their culture is around food and things like that, it really makes the story so much more engaging. So I would highly recommend checking this one out. Another one of my favorites is actually a graphic novel, and that is Relish by Lucy Kinsley. So Lucy Kinsley is not a chef, but her mother and her dad were, if I believe. So basically this is about her whole story about her journey with food, whether her parents taught her, things like that. She visited places and gives recipes. Here's one for huevos rancheros. Hopefully I said that right. And it's just really beautifully drawn, and it makes you very interested in food. Like, I love that she teaches you about it, and she teaches about how it really is important to her family because her mom is a chef and things like that, and you get to backbone into her family life, so it's not just all food. But it's a really great one. It is an adult graphic novel, so to let you know that, but I really loved it, and it's one of my favorites. I mean, they have a whole like freaking thing about croissants, which croissants are everything, but I loved it so much. And she really connects a lot of her things in her life with her memories of food, which is why she wrote this book. So I highly recommend this one. It's one of my favorite ones about food. The next two I'm going to talk about are for my autumn lovers out there. I know I'm not the only one. So these two are all about like autumn foods. Is that a thing? The first one is The Bakeshop of Pumpkin and Spice by Donna Kaufman, Kay Angle, and Allison Charles. This is 3 short stories in one. Am I going to be honest with you? I bought this mainly because of the cover, because it's in a bakery shop with pumpkin cookies and pumpkin pies. Yeah, I'm going to buy it. But I was surprised by how much I really enjoyed it. Basically, we have this town called Moonbright, and in each of these short stories, we follow a different character that lives in Moonbright. The first one is of this girl that has a bakery with her grandma, and then she has insta-lovey. I didn't love the first one. The second one is about a woman that has a hate-to-love relationship, but she cooks a lot of food, visits a lot of bakeries, things like that. The third one is also kind of a friends to lovers with a bakery thing as well. Either way, all of these have a really strong presence of food in them because Moonbright is really known for its food, and I loved it so much because of the fall atmosphere it talked about, like with the pumpkin cookies and pies and Halloween and stuff. So in case you love autumn and you also love food, this is a great one to read. Like, it's just a fun one. Is it going to stick with you forever? Probably not, but it's a fun one to read during the fall months, and it will get you to really love all of the fall foods. Speaking of fall, Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Roll. This is a YA graphic novel, and this is not all about food. This is about 2 characters named Josie and Jasia, and they work at this pumpkin patch, and it's a really huge pumpkin patch. There's like a s'mores pit, like Pappy's Apples. Like, it's like a freaking amusement park for like fall, which is like take me to there. And it's their last night they're working there because they are going to graduate soon and they won't be able to work there. And Josie wants to tell this girl that he likes that he really likes her. And so they go out through this hunt, the entire pumpkin patch place, and try to find her. Along the way, they eat a lot of food, which is why I'm going to recommend it to you, because this book made me really love these things called pumpkin bombs, which is something Rainbow Roll made up, but needs to be a real thing. I talked about it. So basically, in this whole book, we go through different things, and when Deja's taking, you know, Josie to all these things, she's like, I'm going to sample all the food along the way because this is my last night. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. I want to do that. And they would go to Pappy's Apples. They would go to like a caramel corn place. They would go to the Succotash Hut. I was just like, I want to be at this place all the time. They even have a s'mores pit, which I love s'mores. Like it's an addiction for s'mores for me. I have to pace myself with that. Here's the part where she talks about pumpkin bomb. And then we'll still have time for a pumpkin bomb. What's a pumpkin bomb? You never heard of a pumpkin bomb? Vanilla ice cream sandwich between 2 wedges of pumpkin pie on a stick dipped in chocolate. Tell me that doesn't sound like the best thing you've ever dreamed of in your life. I need to make it. I'm going to try to make it probably, because that's like going to be my whole calorie intake for like the week. But it'll be worth it. But basically this whole book, they go through and they sample all the food. They're also on a hunt. So I'd say if you really love like pumpkin patches and fall stuff with also a ton of fall food, this is a perfect book to read. You know, the plot's not really amazing, but the food and the setting is worth it in my opinion. Here's a book I'm going to recommend that I haven't read yet, but I still want to recommend it. And that is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book is beautiful. I've heard amazing things about it. It's basically about a character named Imani, and she wants to be a chef. And she's also a single young mom, and she wants to be a chef, and that's her dreams, and she gets to do that. So basically this entire book, I think she goes to a culinary school. Yes, that's the right word, Heather. And she cooks and things like that. And then she also gets a chance to go to a different country, I think, to learn more things. But either way, it's about her chefing it up, if that's a thing to say. I've heard amazing things about it. I'm definitely going to read it soon. I wanted to recommend it because it is a book all about an aspiring chef. So I can imagine the food in here is going to be very, very amazing. Like, I'm going to want it all. Getting back to a book I read when I first began BookTube like 7 years ago. And that is Bittersweet by Sarah Auckler. This is an underrated book, in my opinion. I've heard like no one talk about it, but it's one of my favorites. It's stuck with me for a long time. This is great also in the winter time too, in case you're wondering. I talked about fall. Let's talk about some winter books. This is about a character named Hudson who works in her mom's diner, and she bakes cupcakes there every night, and every night she has a different cupcake. But she also has dreams of, you know, reliving her ice skating future because she was a big ice skater and then something happened that kind of took her away from it. And it's about her trying to figure out her love of ice skating again, also with her love of baking cupcakes. So each chapter, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've read this book, begins, yes, with a cupcake recipe. So how to appear outwardly cool while totally freaking out on the inside of cupcakes. Chilled vanilla cupcakes, cored and filled with whipped vanilla buttercream and dark chocolate shavings, topped with vanilla icing and sugared cucumber slice. I mean, I'll take that any day. The good, the bad, and the cupcakes. Oatmeal pumpkin cupcakes, shot through with chocolate fudge, topped with a thin layer of fudge icing and I mean, yes, that every chapter begins with a different cupcake recipe, and if it won't make you hungry, I don't know what will. Next up, we have an adult book. I'm trying to switch them up. We have The City's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller. There is a new cover to this book, and I personally like it better. It definitely gives a Christmas feel to it, which it's not a Christmassy book, but they do talk about Christmas in the book, if that makes any sense. But I do prefer this cover very much over this cover, in my opinion. So I read this a while ago, and I don't love it, but I would recommend it if you are a lover of food books. I've got a character named Olivia who is a pastry chef, and then she loses her building like in a fire and things like that. And then she moves to a really small town, and she starts working at the Sugar Maple Inn, which is so wholesome. Joys of a fragrant kitchen, the sound of banjos and fiddles being turned into a barn, and the crisp scent of the orchard outside the front door, Livy soon finds herself immersed in small town life. And basically from there, I think she like tries to enter like this apple pie contest because the city's really big in apple pie contest, which I remember while I was reading this, I visited my grocery store to get random things, and it was 3/14, March 14th, and it was pie day. So they were like half off pie. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get a slice of apple pie because this book really makes you want to eat all of the apple pie. So if you're into apple pie and like really small town books, which is a whole other thing. I have a whole bunch of books I love that are set in very small towns. If you want a recommended reads of small town settings, let me know because I think I really want to do that. So yeah, small town, you know, works at Sugar Maple Inn, Apple Pie. Definitely check this one out. Only fantasy book on here is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Heartless is about the, you know, the beginnings of the Queen of Hearts, you know, the evil Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. What was she before she was that? So we follow Kath, who is a baker, and she wants to own her own bake shop in Wonderland, or actually I should say it's called, yeah, Wonderland. And then she gets, you know, to be desired by the king, and you really get to see her progression of how she becomes Kath, and then she becomes the Queen of Hearts, the evil Queen of Hearts. But I really enjoyed it because she was a baker, and so she would bake a lot of things in this book. So it's interspersed in there. That's not the whole plot line, but it does play a pretty strong part in it. So, I mean, Wonderland, you think of tea and cupcakes and things like that because the Mad Hatter and things like that. This was great. I highly recommend it. It's a standalone as well, so in case you're not into fantasy but you want to read more fantasy but not series, this is a great one to read because it's got food, fantasy, and Alice in Wonderland. I think they're all great combinations. Why I want to talk about that, I didn't love, but I do think it's a fun summer read, and that is Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian. This is about, if you can't already guess by the cover, about like an ice cream stand. So basically we have a character who works at this ice cream stand in the small town. It's a very coveted ice cream stand, and then the owner dies and she's left in charge, and she has to learn how to make the ice cream herself and things like that. Overall, I didn't love the book, but goodness, it made me want ice cream like all the time, which is amazing. But I love the ice cream aspect of it. So if you're just looking for a really cute summery read, I know I'm saying this in the thick of like getting cold, put this one on your radar, save it for next summer because I think it would be a great one for that. It's just cute and fluffy, not much to it, but a ton of ice cream. Last one I want to talk about is one I have read and I just feel so conflicted to this day over, and that is Sourdough by Robin Sloan. This is a very, very short book. It's only like 260 pages, but goodness, was it odd. So bear with me. It's been a while since I've read this, but I just, it's always on my mind for some reason. Whenever I look at it, I just remember it. So we have this character named Lewis, and she is a software programmer in San Francisco, I think where the tech places, I don't know. She goes to this restaurant that's down the street from her all the time, and then they close, and they decide to gift her with a sourdough starter, which if you don't know, in the bread world, a starter is what you start to make bread. So you have to baby it almost. It's like a bread baby. It's not bread quite yet, but it's on its way to be bread. So it's like full of flour and yeast, and you have to put water in it, and it starts to smell very yeasty, like almost like a really fragrant beer, like hops and stuff. And you have to, you know, baby it, and then you can take it, and then you can take some of the starter and then make your own bread, but you have to keep feeding it a ton. So basically this woman's gifted with a starter, and she makes a whole bunch of bread, and the bread like starts to communicate with her. If it sounds odd, it is odd, but it's a very interesting book. Like, I'll never forget it because how odd it is, which is why I can't quite get rid of it, because I always just remember things from it. So if that sounds interesting to you all, if you're a big bread person, because she really delves in the very beginning of this of learning everything about bread, I would highly recommend this one. My husband is a bread fanatic, so I kept talking about it to him when I was reading it. But overall, it's a Robin Sloan book, so it's quirky, it's weird, it's very odd, but it's interesting though, and it's all about bread. So in case you're into that. There you have it. Those are my really odd recommendations about food books. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like these videos, let me know. I want to do more of them, like books in a small town setting, books that have music in them. I would love to hear your thoughts about what kind of really niche and kind of really odd and really ultra specific books. And Lala does it as well. Like she has books about camp and books about space. I love watching those. So if you want some different ones from me like that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that because I really love those really oddly specific recommended reads, because I search out for books about food and books in small town settings. That's just me. So I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any books about food that you think I would like, please leave them down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.